Now we're going to talk about one of probably the best known stories in the Bible. And we're going to talk about a little act of faith. A little act of faith. Let's look at 1 Samuel chapter 17. Once again, I encourage you, please read the whole chapter so you can get an idea of the whole story and what's going on and all the details there are in the story. So I really encourage you, please, 1 Samuel chapter 17, read that. But for right now, we are going to look at verses 32 through 37, and then we're going to kind of skip a few and pick up at verse 49. So let's start at verse 32. And David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." And David said unto Saul, "Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God." David said, "Moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine." And Saul said unto David, "Go, and the Lord be with thee." Now, if you'll skip over to verse 49. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and sprang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. Like you said, a very, very familiar story, probably the most familiar story in the Bible, David and Goliath. But I think sometimes we forget that while Goliath was a giant, David was not just a mere man, he was a little man. He was small. He was the youngest of his brothers. He was just kind of a scrawny little boy, basically. He was a youth. He was little. And instead of fighting this humongous giant with these huge weapons, instead of fighting them with huge weapons of his own, because he even tried on Saul's armor and his sword and spear, and he said, "I can't do these. This is not for me." So instead, he picked up the little things that God had blessed him with, the little things that God had given him, the little things that he was skilled in using. He picked up a sling and some stones. And with that little sling and those little stones, that little shepherd boy was able to bring down the giant that no one else in Israel was even willing to face. No one else was even willing to try to face. Just hearing Goliath talk made all of Israel shake in their boots or knock their knees together. Just hearing his taunts and his threats was enough to terrify them. But one little boy with one little sling and stone went out and fought that giant. He used what God had given him. He didn't try to mimic what somebody else did or use what somebody else had. He just used what God had given him, those little things. So as we close out today, I want to leave you with one more verse. And this kind of just reminds us that God wants us to be faithful in the little things as well as the big things. Let's look at Luke 16, verse 10. Luke 16, verse 10 says, "He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much." There are little things that are good, there are little things that are bad. And either way, little things matter. I want to focus more right now on the good. There are times I know for my life where I just feel like I am not enough. I feel like I don't have enough of the skill that I need. I feel like I don't have enough time. I feel like I don't have enough energy. I feel like I just don't have enough to do what God wants me to do. But you know what? If I just give God what I have, He can multiply it and make it into so much more. And not only will it benefit and bless me, it will benefit and bless those around me. And He can do the same for you if you're willing to let Him use the little things that you have.